Well, you've never seen a scene like this before. The basketball player stands at the free throw line. Just a few seconds left on the game clock. The score is tied. The fans are quiet. The cheerleaders gulp. He bounces the basketball and he prepares to shoot. You've never seen a scene like this before. How do I know? Well, because the player has never seen a scene like this before. He's blind. Matt Stevens can't see a thing. Everybody else on his team is sighted. Everybody on the other team is sighted. So how is it that a coach placed a blind player on the free throw line? Well, the coach is his big brother. Joe, Matt's older brother, has always had enough vision for the two of them. He actually helped his younger brother ride a bike and ice skate. All the things that no one thought Matt could do, Matt did because of Joe. And when Joe became a coach of a high school basketball team, he took Matt along as his equipment manager. Now, Matt never practices with the team. He doesn't play in a game. But after each practice, he and his older brother, the coach, stay and shoot free throws. Joe stands beneath the basket, and with a cane, he taps the metal rim. And Matt listens, and then Matt shoots. And so it is that Coach Joe came up with this plan. He pitched it to his team, to the other team, to the referees, that for this non-conference game only, his younger brother would be the designated free throw shooter. Everyone thought it was a great idea, but no one had any idea that the game would come down to one shot. So far in the game, Matt is 0 for 6. He hasn't made one. So everyone is quiet. Matt stands at the free throw line. Coach Joe stands beneath the basket. He taps the metal rim. Matt takes the ball and he shoots and he makes it. Oh, the crowd goes crazy. But everybody has to settle back down because he's going to shoot again. And the scene never seen before repeats itself. And he makes the second one. A player from the opposing team grabs the ball and he launches a Hail Mary toward the other basket, but misses. The crowd goes crazy. And Matt is left standing there at the free throw line. He can't find his way back to the bench. Well, guess who comes to help him? His big brother, Joe. All the beauty of a big brother. A big brother will help you get through things. Big brother help you get through a test. A big brother has some lunch money. A big brother will get you down the block. Everybody needs a big brother. Now maybe you're not trying to make a basket, but maybe you are trying to make sense out of life or make it through a tough time. And maybe you're in a stretch of life where you sure could use a big brother. Well, I'm glad to tell you, you have one. And you may be surprised to learn his name. Wouldn't it be great just to have a big brother? Somebody to help us get through the tough times of life. Maybe you're trying to make it through a tough day, make a salary or make a difference. And you just need somebody to come in and give you some strength. We're going to talk today about how that big brother is a part of your life. And you're going to find out that what the brothers of Joseph discovered, you can discover as well. And that is the prince is your brother. But before we look at that story, let's make sure that we've given our declaration one final shot. Thanks for being a part of this study over the last 6 sessions. And let's remember that God is the one who's going to help us through this. And let's remember this survival creed. One final time, fill your lungs with air and your hearts with hope. And let's say it like we mean it, shall we? I'll get through this. It won't be painless. It won't be quick. But God will use this mess for good. In the meantime, don't be foolish or naive, but don't despair either. With God's help, I will get through this. The brothers of Joseph needed somebody to help them get through this. Where we find them in this particular message, oh, they could not have looked more pitiful. They are exhausted. They are discouraged. They are confused. And they are standing before the prince of Egypt, accused of stealing, far from home, confused, hungry, poverty-stricken. I mean, they could not appear more pitiful. And so here they are. Here they are. They think the end is near. My guess is they think they're going to go back into prison. They're thinking that the prince of Egypt is going to have his way with them and do away with them forever. Oh boy, are they in for a surprise. In one of the most dramatic chapters in the Bible, we read what Joseph did. It's in Genesis 45. Genesis 45, verse 1 prepares us for what is about to come. I love just this first phrase. Genesis 45 and verse 1, then Joseph could not restrain himself. I just see him burying his face in his hands, and he begins to heave with emotion. He doesn't just whimper, he doesn't just weep, but this 20 years of emotion that's been bottled up, it just comes spilling out. 20 years of trickery, 20 years of pain, it finally comes to an end, and it spills out right there on the marble floor. Anger and love had dueled it out, and it looks like love is going to win. He broke the news. Verse 3, he tells them, I am Joseph. And look at his first question. Does my father still live? Now, again, it's my imagination, but I've got these brothers in a genuine genuflect. They're down on the floor. Their face is right down on the floor. And they don't see him, but they hear this weeping going on, and they don't dare lift their heads. They don't know what to think. And then they hear him say, I am Joseph. Now, the last time they saw Joseph, he was a scrawny, spindly, teenage boy being pulled out of a pit and sold into slavery. They've assumed that Joseph is dead all these years. The last time they saw Joseph, he was in trouble. And now Joseph is the prince. I just imagine them looking, casting glances one to the other, maybe mouthing the words, Joseph, Joseph. It couldn't be. Joseph. They lift their heads ever so slightly, ever so carefully, hesitantly. And they look up and they see Joseph lower his hands, and that makeup that the Egyptian pharaohs and princes would wear, smeared from tears, and his voice shakes as he gives this invitation in verse 4. He says, please come near to me. Please come near to me. And the brothers stand up and they begin inching in the direction of Joseph. What a tender moment this is. In the next few verses, Joseph basically says, God sent me here. God did this. This was all God's idea. God is actually protecting you. There's more to this story than meets the eye. Look how He takes care of their fear. They haven't apologized. They haven't asked any questions, but He knows what they're feeling, and He reaches out to them, and He begins to deal with some of the fear that they're going to have. And then He says, go get your families. Bring everybody here. I'm going to protect you all. I'm going to take care of you. He fell on his brother Benjamin's neck and wept. And then later he kissed all his brothers and he wept over them. After that, the brothers talked with him. Again, what a moment. One by one, he wept over them. You know what? He didn't exclude a single one of them. He didn't exclude Judah, the one who came up with the slave trafficking idea. He didn't exclude Reuben, the one who was the firstborn but didn't behave like a big brother. He didn't skip one up. He didn't even say, weren't you the one who tied my hands that day? Weren't you the one who shoved me down in the pit? He just covers this moment with mercy. He embraced each one of them, and then He talked with them. He didn't talk over them. He didn't talk at them. He talked with them. Hey, Reuben, did you ever marry that girl from down the street? Judah, you got a little chubby since I've seen you. They have these moments of conversation. It's the family coming back together. And then Pharaoh hears about this. And Pharaoh basically says, Joseph, any family of yours is a family of mine. I'm going to give them a place to stay. Go ahead, tell the family to come. And so he sends for the family. And the reconciliation takes another step. About this time, it dawns on the brothers, we're out of danger. There's a famine still raging. The fields are still bare. But you know what? We're going to be okay. Why? Because the prince is our brother. Circumstances are still the same, but their confidence increases because they've discovered that the person who sits on the throne is actually their big brother. Oh, for such a gift. You know what? We know what it's like to face a famine. Maybe, if not a famine in the field, at least a famine at work or a famine at school. We've gone through tough times. We know what it's like to run out of resources and supplies. We've stood where the brothers stood, and we've done what the brothers have done. We've gone to the throne. We've gone to the sovereign. We've gone to the prince. We've asked for mercy. We've asked for help. We've done what the brothers have done. We felt what the brothers have felt. And you know what? We've discovered what the brothers discovered. They discovered that the person in charge was actually their big brother. You know where I'm going with this, don't you? Do you know that the one in charge is your big brother? This may be new language. You're used to hearing Jesus described as king. You're used to hearing Jesus described as Redeemer. You're used to hearing Jesus described as Savior. But it is a biblical term for you to call Jesus your brother because He calls you His family. You see, the picture of Joseph and his brothers is really the picture of Jesus and His family. In fact, there are so many similarities between Joseph and Jesus that I would contend that Joseph is just the warm-up act for the story of Jesus, just the appetizer that prepares us for really the main course of the Bible, and that is the story of Jesus. Have you ever noticed all the similarities between the story of Joseph and the story of Jesus? Here's a short list. Joseph was the favorite son of Jacob. Jesus is the beloved Son of God. Joseph fed the nations. Jesus fed the multitudes. Joseph prepared people for a famine. Jesus came to prepare us for the kingdom. Under Joseph's administration, the grain increased. In Jesus' hands, water became wine and a basket of bread became a buffet. Joseph responded to a crisis of nature. Jesus responded to one crisis after another. Joseph was in command. Jesus was in command. He told typhoons to settle down and waves to be quiet. He commanded cadavers to stand up and the crippled to dance a jig and the mute to sing an anthem. And people hated Joseph. And guess what? People hated Jesus. Joseph was sold for 20 pieces of silver, Jesus for 30. Joseph was falsely accused and thrown into a prison. Jesus was condemned for no cause and nailed to a cross. And you know, the brothers thought they had seen the last of Joseph. And the accusers thought they had seen the last of Jesus. But you know what? While the killers of Jesus slept and the followers wept, Jesus stood up right there on the slab of death. He unwrapped his burial clothes and he stepped out into the Easter morning sunrise. Listen to this verse from Ephesians chapter 1 and verse 20. God raised him from death and set him on a throne in the deep heaven, in charge of running the universe, everything from galaxies to governments. No name and no power exempt from his rule, and not just for the time being, but forever. He is in charge of it all. He has the final word on everything. We've already established how Joseph was put over the entire nation of the most powerful nation on the face of the earth at that time. Jesus, how much more, has been put over all nations, and not just for that time, but for all of time. You see, Jesus is our Joseph. Jesus is our Joseph. And here's where the similarities end. Joseph's reign over Egypt came to a conclusion, but Jesus' reign over the universe will never end. His throne will never be vacant. There came a time in which Joseph died and his body was carried back to his homeland where he was buried. But Jesus' reign will never stop. He has risen from the dead and He will forever oversee this universe that He has created. And so we look now to the Prince and we find out, oh, the Prince is our big brother. The Prince is family. Yes, the famine rages. Yes, the challenges are many. But guess what? We have a Prince and we have a brother, and it's the same person. And you know what? The things that Joseph did for his brothers, your Prince does for you. Think about it. Think about it. Remember how Joseph wept at the sight of his brothers? Your Prince weeps at the sight of you, not out of shame, but out of joy. He loves you that much. He is thrilled when you come into His presence. He welcomes you to His throne room. He weeps with joy at the sight of you. And you know what? Just like Joseph called for his brothers, well, your Prince calls for you. Jesus said, come to me, all of you who are weary and heavy laden, and I'll give you rest. Come to me, He says, come to me. Just like Joseph said to his brothers, come near, come near. So Jesus right now is urging you, He's urging me, wherever we are in life, let's just draw near to our King. He weeps for us. He calls for us. And just like Joseph provided for his brothers, so our Prince provides for us. He provides for us. The Bible says that in Jesus we have an advocate with the Father, Jesus Christ the righteous. Who is an advocate? An advocate is somebody who speaks up on our behalf. Joseph spoke up on behalf of his brothers, right? And they were cared for. Jesus speaks up on our behalf, and we are cared for. Our brother Jesus promises to supply all your needs according to His riches. Philippians 4:19. You know, life turns everybody upside down at some point. I don't think any of us escape being taken down to Egypt. I think all of us pass through a tough time, a tough chapter. It may be long, it may be short. It may be short and seem like it's for long. But all of us face it. The woman who discovers her husband having the affair, down to Egypt. The businessman whose investments are embezzled, down to Egypt. The teenager who discovers that a night of romance results in a surprise pregnancy, down to Egypt. The pastor who finds his faith shaken by questions of suffering and fear, down to Egypt. We all, at some point in our life, get taken down to Egypt. We'd be foolish to think that we are invulnerable, but listen, we'd be just as foolish to think that evil always wins the day. The Bible vibrates with this steady drumbeat of faith, and that is, what others intend for evil, God uses for good. This was the conviction that sustained Joseph. Some years later, when the brothers of Joseph thought the prince was going to throw them into the pit, they came asking for mercy. You see, Jacob passed away, and they thought with Dad gone, now Joseph is going to come after us. But Joseph reassured them. He said, no, no, no. What you meant or what you intended as evil, God used for good. See, he put God right in the middle of his story. You intended evil, but God meant it for good. I think that's the big story here. Keep God in the center of your story. Is evil going to come? Absolutely. But can evil become good? Absolutely. As long as we keep God right in the middle. As long as we keep God in the center of the story. Friend, you're going to get through this. You are. Will it be painless? Will it be quick? Not necessarily. But God will use this mess for something good. In the meantime, don't be foolish. Don't be naive. But don't despair either. You have a good God. And God will take this tragedy and turn it into a triumph. And with His help, you will get through this. After all, the prince is your brother.